Hello, Beth. This is my booktube just for you. The first one I'm going to do is the last book that I read in 2025, Just Another Story by Ernesto Sade. It's the account of his cousin and aunt's migration from El Salvador all the way up to the US. You know I love graphic novels that are nonfiction. This one is no exception. The flashbacks are told in full color while the present is told in black and white, something I found very effective. And the story of Ernesto's cousin Carlos and his aunt is very harrowing and very sympathetic. I highly recommend it as an account of someone trying to make it into the US without legal means. I'm gonna try to post a video talking about a book I just read, maybe at least once a week, maybe twice a week. I don't expect to manage finishing a whole book every single week, so I'm probably just going to mention another book that I read in 2025 as the year goes on so that I can talk about more and tell you more about all the books that I read last year and didn't get to go through with you. I made a list of thrillers with husbands who don't suck. Hopefully, you'll be excited to read some of those. It's not a very long list, but still. The other one I can recommend because it's still sort of seasonal is Sarah Rash's The Nightmare Before Christmas and Go Luck Yourself. I don't normally read romances, as you know, and these ones, I think it's because they're so on their face stupid that I could just totally embrace them and how dumb they are. They were really sweet, and I really liked the writing. The author reminds me of the Sarah Rash has the vibe of someone who writes Check Please fanfic, and Check Please being one of the only fandoms that I read fanfic for. I mean that in a positive way. I've only read these two books of hers, but I plan on fully reading her other adult romances, even though I don't do that for literally any other romance series. I've gotten my book club to read Nightmare Before Christmas at your recommendation, and they agreed to let me make Go Luck Yourself our March read for St. Patrick's Day. So that's going to be very fun for us. I'll probably go into more detail about books that have a deeper plot or that I have a ton to complain about. But I know you read Night Before Christmas. I don't remember if you read Go Luck Yourself, but they hold up super good. All right. Uh, all right. I'll talk to you later. Hey, this is part two of my recording. I realized I probably want to add more to the last video, unless I want all our exchanges to be YouTube shorts. There's not as much to say about the graphic novel because it's all graphics, so the pictures speak louder than the words. But the Sarah Rash books, okay? So Nightmare Before Christmas I liked a little better than Go Luck Yourself. I think part of that's just because it's the first book. So when in the second book, the main character there, is like, "Oh, you're the most selfless person I've ever met," to his love interest. I'm like, is he? Because I met everyone in the first book. So it's a little harder to believe that, but it's also easier to believe, oh man, this is like a once in a lifetime romance if it's the only one you're reading that's trying to convince you of that. Um, Besides that, I think the tenderness that Cole and Hex have in the first book um, really reflects the tender and comfort and softness of Christmas, the holiday that it's about. Well, I do like the more hot-headed, passionate thing they have going on in Go Luck Yourself with Chris and Lachlan that doesn't have as many thematic similarities to the holiday. Besides that, Nightmare Before Christmas goes really well into deconstructing the materialism of Christmas while still making what's valuable about it more specific than just general kindness and not so specific to be just about Christianity. They make it about tradition and everything that's important in tradition. And that's what all of them want for their holidays, to maintain these traditions, not just for tradition's sake, but because that's culture, because that connects people, because it's history, because it's something enriching that we need to talk about or it will be forgotten. So things like older carols that nobody sings anymore that are less commercial, or really old specialized Easter eggs. That's really cool and interesting a topic to bring it up when talking about the true meaning of the holidays. So I can't do royal romances because I'm always like, they should just stop being a monarch, actually. They should just abolish the monarchy. And in this, they practically do that. Everybody still has the title of prince and king and everything, but they're like, okay, but we're gonna unionize. Um, so it does what I actually want all royal romances to do, and that's fantastic. Cole as the Christmas Prince, really appealing. I love that he's a screw up, but also that he's this hopeless romantic, so that makes him kind of perfect as this chaotic Christmas boy. And I love that Hex is more formal and thoughtful, and I really like how communicative they are. In the second book, Go Luck Yourself, they still emphasize the need for tradition and how Irish tradition specifically is overcoming centuries of oppression, particularly by the English. I would buy it more if St. Patrick's Day was even a blip on the radar of actual Irish people. It's much more important for the Irish diaspora, particularly in America, when Irish people were treated really racistly in the first era of them coming over to the US. It also can't deconstruct the monarchy system the way the first book did because the first book already did it. I will say there's this advertisement for the book on Sarah Rash's Instagram, and this is much more a marketing problem. This isn't like dissing Sarah Rash or anything, but if I can find the graphic easily, I'll put it here. But it tags the book as Grumpy X Sunshine, Enemies to Lovers, Slow Burn, and Opposites Attract. And Enemies to Lovers, sure, because the plot of the second book is Chris trying to figure out who's stealing Christmas's magic. So that's literally two countries slash kingdoms dealing with international theft. I'll take it. But Slow Burn, they get together like less than halfway through the book. Like, I mean, there is some on and off with them, but if your characters are admitting their feelings for each other less at like the 43% mark, then it's not a slow burn. This is, I know, a marketing thing, and the back and forth is part of the appeal, and sometimes it's just easier to say that, but not a slow burn. Also, Grumpy X Sunshine, what I love about the second book is that Chris Claus, the Spare to the Throne, is going through existential crisis and anxiety the entire book. That is something that makes his character really engaging, and it makes it definitely so that he's way less of a sunshine boy. Not as an insult, but it just makes him more complicated and doesn't fit the sunshine grumpy criteria. It's more like dark impending cloud that hasn't rained yet and active storm cloud, which is also a good ship dynamic. And Opposites Attract, it's not Opposites Attract. They're both artists, they both have daddy issues, they both have family pressure happening to them, they both value reviving traditions and taking care of their holiday and the people around their holiday. There's nothing really opposite about them. They don't even have opposite values when it comes to things like art and reading and literature. They don't have anything that they're not at least a little bit together on, except for whiskey. And that's fine. They don't need to be opposites. They're not aesthetically opposites either, the way that Hex and Cole were more opposites attract because it's Halloween and Christmas. And also, Hex is much more formal. He's more reserved. He's a lot more responsible and already deep dedicated to the holiday, and maybe a little too dedicated to the holiday, where Chris's arc is about getting himself to act on his care for the holiday rather than just be the goofy person everyone expects him to be. And he is more goofy and outgoing, which does set him as more of an opposite to Hex. So I don't know if they wanted to say it was opposites attract because that's more what the first book was marketed like, but it's super not. But that's part of the appeal for me. I like that they're on the same page and that they're so in sync about this. I think that's enough about the two Christmas romance books where they do stuff like go to charity races and fall in love behind their dad's backs or whatever. I don't mean to make that sound dismissive. It's fantastic. It's my favorite. Sarah, if you're watching this somehow, please make a third book and make it about Iris because I really need more Iris in my life. My book club needs more Iris in our lives. We love our purple princess. We love her so much, and we just need a whole book about her if possible, please and thank you. So I gotta get ready for Hands Off Venezuela protest. I know you're probably going to one if there's one in your area too. So, okay, I'll try to make another video this week. I have 2 books I need to finish for 2 separate book clubs, so I'll definitely have stuff to talk about. Okay, bye bye.